Donning makeshift biohazard suits, complete with masks and protective gloves, protesters are showing off what they've collected from under a BC coastal fish farm.
We did a lot of sampling with the grabber, and we never found anything black naturally, no black waste. Definitely nothing that's stinky.
Inside these containers is a mixture the protesters are referring to as a toxic sludge. It's waste product they say is polluting the environment and found only under open net farms.
Well, the real obvious dangers is just smothered everything with as much as 2 feet of fish waste. So any clams, anything that was living on the bottom is simply physically smothered, let alone the pollution factor of it.
Guarded by pirates, they say they want to return the sludge to the head offices of the companies responsible for putting it there. But there were no takers at Marine Harvest or Mainstream Canada willing to accept the hand-delivered message.
When we talk about fishing, we talk about food production. Industrial fishing, many times, they harvest in the deep sea and they offload or transship in the deep sea. And they do that by the ton loads per minute, per hour. They do it by the ton loads. Nobody sees it because it happens out in the deep. There has to be harmony between fishing activities and fishers' lives and a healthy environment. That has to be the case. And fishers at all times are responsible from their side in the way they conduct their activity. And that is what our communities do. The way they fish uses technique that does not destroy the environment. They don't drag huge nets in the bottom of the ocean floor that destroys the ocean bottom. That's industrial fishing, that's commodification of fishing. Fish means many things. It means life, it means food, it means society, it's our connection. The species that lives in the water is natural. So when small-scale fishers go to sea or when they fish, their dependency is on that natural environment. And if that natural environment becomes contaminated in any way, through pollution, through oil, through mining, through whatever, then their livelihood is immediately at stake. Doringbai is a rural community. It's about 300-400 kilometers outside of Cape Town. It's isolated. It is small, a few thousand people. You know, it's not big. It's on the coast. There's a small sort of capacity to farm potatoes and things around it, but that is tiny. The biggest form or income producer in Doringbai, it comes from fishing. It comes from the ocean. But Doringbai is also poor in the sense that there's no economic activity, there's no industry, there's nothing. It's just a community that exists in isolation. So what has to happen for that community to thrive and to subsist is for them to go to sea, or for the fishers in that community to go to sea to catch fish. So it is fishing that is the mainstay of life. And the fishing because it's the mainstay of life, also provides income for those communities. And fishing has to provide a means to access housing, and a means to access education, and a means to access health or health services. So when the Doringbai fishing community, when the Doringbai fishers did not get fishing rights under the commercial fishing policy in South Africa, their entire livelihoods were threatened. There was just no other means of income. So the new fishing legislation of 2005 virtually killed Doringbai as a community. Fishing communities don't just eat fish. They also need to wear clothes. They also need to eat vegetables. So clothes makers, tailors and dressmakers and farmers are present in fishing communities. So the food sovereignty movement is one movement. It has many different arms and focuses within it, but it is one movement. Food sovereignty isn't an abstract thing. It's about life and livelihoods and people's interaction with the sea and water and nature. It is about everything that's going into that plate of food. It's about making sure that there's nutritious food, that the community is part of the process and contributes to the process, and it's about making the rules and the practices that informs how the fishing happens. So all of that is food sovereignty. You know, at a global level, when WFFP speaks about food sovereignty, it speaks about the right of human beings, the right of fishers as human beings to be able to have control over the food that they're going to need to eat today and tomorrow, and that we develop a practice to sustain that and to be able to multiply that. I would like to say our belief is in perpetuity, you know, not just for a particular season or particular year. It must be a cycle that repeats itself and multiplies itself over and over again so that life can continue in that sense, which is nature in many ways. You know, it reproduces itself. Building and keeping solidarity is something that's constantly in motion. Yeah, so you can call it struggles that is shared and that we do together. You can call it a movement. You can call it whatever you want to call it. The point really is that food sovereignty is constantly in motion. And that motion, that movement, that ongoingness brings together people in different situations with different cultures, different nationalities. It brings together an ability to together engage with big global forces, big geopolitical things and pressures on society, and to be able to change that and to push that back, or an attempt to push that back. So yes, food sovereignty for us in the fishing sector is a movement in that sense, that it is part of a process to collectively the world over try and on the one hand protect our human dignity, but on the other hand push towards having a system in society at large, in the world at large, in different countries, to have a system that is just, fair and equitable, not just for fishers, but for everyone that's connected to fishing. So it's bringing together a movement of fishers, fish cleaners, bait preparers, boat builders, and food and consumers, fish consumers. Bring everybody together. So it is that movement that I would describe in the WFFP context as the food sovereignty movement in fishing.
We want our fishing rights. We want our fishing rights. We want our fishing rights. We want our human 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 rights.